He already had the gun raised when she turned around. The hammer was pulled back. His finger rested tight on the trigger. She stood by the stove like she had been there all her life, one hand still on the kettle handle, eyes steady on him. The fire cracked low between them. He did not lower the barrel. Step away from the stove. She did not move. No, his jaw tightened. That's my cabin. Her voice stayed flat. It was empty. It's not empty now. She looked at him then, really looked at him, not at the gun. Neither am I. The kettle began to whistle. Neither of them reached for it. He stepped inside slowly, boots heavy on the wood floor he built himself years ago. The place smelled different. Cleaner. Wood stacked neatly by the wall. The broken hinge fixed. The table wiped down. You planning on stealing from me? He asked. I already did. He narrowed his eyes. What? She lifted the kettle off the flame and set it aside. Warmth. The word hung there. He shifted the gun slightly but did not lower it. She looked tired. Dirt under her nails. A bruise fading yellow near her collarbone. Her dress was plain, worn thin at the elbows. Not a traveler's dress. A staying dress. You alone? He asked. Yes. Anyone else coming? No, you expect me to believe that? I don't expect anything from you. He circled her slowly, boots creaking. She did not flinch. He noticed the floor had been swept. The old chair repaired. Even the window cloth replaced. How long? He asked. 3 nights. You picked the wrong place. I picked the only place. He stopped in front of the table. His old drawer sat half open. He stared at it. Then at her. You touched that? She nodded once. Why? To see if you were real. His grip tightened. Explain. She held his gaze. Men who leave cabins like this don't leave clean drawers. He walked to it, keeping the gun aimed with one hand. He pulled it open wider. The badge was still there. Dull. Cold. Untouched. He looked back at her sharply. You go through my things? Yes. You're bold. No, a beat. Desperate. Silence filled the room thick and heavy. He had not worn that badge in years. Had not even thought about it in months. He swallowed once. Who are you? She hesitated. Eliza. Last name. Doesn't matter. It matters to me. It won't help you. He studied her face. There was no fear in it. Just something harder. Something settled. You running from someone? He asked. She said nothing. He took a step closer. Answer me. You still keep your badge in the drawer? She asked quietly. His chest tightened. The gun dipped an inch without him noticing. How do you know about that? She did not blink. I know who used to live here. He stared at her, searching for a crack in her voice. People talk, she added. About what? About the quiet deputy who stopped asking questions. His face darkened. Careful. About the reports that disappeared. He felt heat rise in his neck. You don't know what you're saying. I know enough. He stepped forward fast, close enough to see the faint scar near her jaw. Who sent you? No one. You expect me to believe that? I expect you to decide whether you're the man they say you are. His breath slowed. The kettle ticked softly as it cooled. Outside, wind brushed the dry grass. Inside, the air felt tight. This isn't your fight, he muttered. It is now. You don't even know me. I know you quit. He flinched at that. She saw it. Why here? He asked again, voice lower. Because you walked away, she said. That doesn't mean I forgot how to shoot. I don't need you to shoot. Then what do you need? Her eyes softened just a fraction. I need you to remember. The words landed heavier than any threat. He felt something old stir in his chest, something he buried when he locked this cabin and rode away. He looked around the room. The fixed hinge. The stacked wood. The swept floor. She had not come to hide. She had come to stay. You can't just live here, he said, but the edge was gone. Watch me, she replied. He held her stare a long time. Then slowly, carefully, he lowered the gun. Not fully. Just enough. If I find out you're lying, he said. Then what? She asked. He had no answer ready. The silence stretched again, but it felt different now. Not hostile. Not safe either. Just charged. He walked to the door without taking his eyes off her and shut it firmly. The latch clicked into place. The sound echoed in the small room. He slid the bolt across. She watched him do it. You locking me in? She asked. He shook his head once. No, he said quietly. I'm locking them out. He let the door settle behind him, the latch clicking with a finality he hadn't felt in years. The cabin felt smaller now, the walls pressing closer with memory and smoke, the shadows thicker than the firelight should allow. He walked to the drawer and pulled it open fully, revealing the old deputy badge, dulled by time and neglect. His fingers lingered on the metal. Cold. Heavy. He remembered the first day he pinned it on his chest, proud and nervous, thinking he could make a difference. That memory tasted like ash now. You want to explain? He asked, not looking at her. Your sheriff came through town last week, she said, voice low, measured. He froze. That's not my sheriff. He said he was. He turned to her. She stood by the table, arms crossed, eyes unyielding. He lied, he muttered. She shrugged, almost impatient. Men like him always do. Why are you telling me this? He demanded. Because you walked away. His chest tightened. The air smelled faintly of the wood smoke and the faint iron tang of the badge. He clenched his jaw. What did he want? Land. Power. People buried under silence. Her words didn't tremble. They shouldn't have. But they hit him like blows he couldn't brace against. People buried, he repeated, disbelief threading through his voice. Yes. Quietly. With papers. With threats. With promises no one keeps. He stepped back. He had seen it all once. Closed files. Ignored complaints. He had justified it. Why here? You quit. You walked away. You didn't want to see. His hands curled into fists. He remembered nights in that cabin, alone with the moon slicing through the windows, thinking he had done enough. He hadn't. She saw the hesitation, the weight, the history pressed into the badge. You still keep it, she said, voice soft now, almost gentle. He touched it. The metal pressed cold against his palm. It's just a thing, he said. It's not, she corrected. It's what they know. What they fear. What they hide behind. He swallowed. She was right. It had been a shield, a token of authority he no longer believed in, and yet he had clung to it like a prayer. Tell me about him, he said finally. Your sheriff. The one who came. She leaned closer. He runs the county like it's his inheritance. Old families, old money, old grudges. He uses fear like a blade. He shook his head. And you? She asked. You're a widow now. Alone. I survived. Barely. So did he. He killed my husband, she said bluntly. He flinched, though he didn't show it. The words were precise, clean, cutting. That's not how it went down, he muttered. You were there? I was everywhere he wanted me to be invisible. He gritted his teeth. He fell off the barn, he said, the old report coming back in fragments. He was drunk. Careless. He was sober, she said. The bluntness of it forced a pause. He looked away. What evidence? Letters. Payments. Names. She tapped the table lightly. Evidence he buried before anyone could touch it. Why tell me now? Because you still care. Because you still remember. Because you can still make a choice. He felt a familiar heat rising in his chest. Rage. Fear. Guilt. Memories of papers he signed, of cases he closed, of cries he ignored. I didn't know, he said finally, voice tight. You did. You chose quiet. I didn't know who else to trust, he whispered. Trust, she said, repeating it almost like a curse. That badge, she said, nodding to the medal in his palm, is a memory. Not a weapon. Not anymore. It's what they hide from. He looked down at it. He could feel the years pressed into its edges, the stories it had witnessed, the hands that had held it before him. And you, he asked. What do you want from it? I want someone to remember. He drew a slow breath. Someone to act. She stepped closer, voice dropping to a whisper. Someone to dig. He flinched. What? You know the well behind the cabin. His gut nodded. That well had been closed off years ago, a memory he had tried to lock away. I haven't been back there, he said. Not in years. Then it's time. He shook his head. It's dangerous. She met his gaze steadily. It's already dangerous. You walking away made it worse. He set the badge on the table, letting it clatter softly against the wood. I thought leaving meant safety. For who? She asked. Not for them. Not for him, she said, and the name hung in the air like smoke. He clenched his fists, nails biting into his palms. You want me to go after him? I want you to remember what it's like to care again. He laughed, short, bitter. I'm not the man I was. No, she said softly. You're quieter. But you're still here. That counts. He stared at her, measuring the calm, the certainty, the fire beneath her calmness. She was not begging. She was not threatening. She was stating a simple fact. Tell me what to do, he said finally. Start by opening your eyes, she said. Look at what's been buried. Look at the well. Look at what they think is forgotten. He felt the weight of years pressing down. Files closed. Reports ignored. Lives silenced. And all of it remembered in the cold metal pressed against his palm. You want me to dig, he said. Yes, she said. You want me to uncover what they buried? Yes. The words were blunt. Precise. An order. A plea. A demand. He swallowed, mind racing. And if they come for me? Then they'll see that the quiet deputy is still here, she said. And I'm still here too. He looked at her then, really looked at her, seeing the exhaustion, the bruises, the determination. He felt a pang of guilt sharpened by admiration. All right, he said. All right. She smiled faintly, not relieved, not triumphant, just steady. First step, she said, we check the well. He nodded. The badge stayed on the table, a heavy weight in the room. Outside, the wind pressed against the cabin walls. Inside, silence settled, but it felt alive, like the house itself was listening. We leave at first light? He asked. No, she said. Now. He hesitated. The thought of confronting what had been buried for years made his stomach churn. Now, she said again, firmer. He grabbed his coat from the peg by the door. The metal of the badge scraped against the drawer edge. He left it behind. Some memories could not fit in a pocket. She followed him outside. The air was sharp against their faces. The sun was dipping low, the shadows long and cold. The wind tugged at the loose boards of the cabin, whispering through cracks. He saw the well at the edge of the clearing, dark and still, the stones mossy, the air around it heavy. "You ever look down there anymore?" she asked. "No," he admitted. He studied the circular mouth of the well, feeling the pull of memory. He swallowed. "It's not the same as it used to be," he muttered. "Nothing's the same," she said. "Not after what they did." He felt anger rise again, slow and steady. "Then we start," she said. "One step. One truth." He nodded. For the first time in years, he felt the weight of a purpose outside himself. And the cabin behind them, with its closed doors and faint smoke in the chimney, seemed to lean in, listening, approving, or perhaps warning. He didn't know which. They approached the well together. Footsteps silent on the dry grass. The air tasted of metal, dust, and something older, something unsaid. He reached the edge, fingers brushing the rough stone. She reached beside him, hand steady, touching his briefly. "Ready?" she asked. He nodded. "We're not alone anymore," she said. "And we're not silent." The wind caught in the trees behind them, carrying a faint whistle from the cabin, and the shadows deepened around the well, holding secrets he hadn't dared remember until now. And for the first time, the badge on the table was not his anchor, not his shield. It was just metal. Just memory. Nothing more. Together, they turned toward the edge, ready to uncover what had been buried, ready to confront what they had left behind. The cabin stayed quiet, but its silence had changed, charged with what was about to come. He felt it in his bones, sharp and cold and real. And he stepped forward. They walked in silence at first, boots crunching the dry dirt that had grown pale under the late afternoon sun. The well waited at the edge of the clearing, dark, circular, like a mouth that had swallowed everything and never spoken. He stopped a few feet away, hands brushing the rough stones. "You ever look down here anymore?" she asked quietly. "No," he admitted. His voice sounded too loud in the quiet. He remembered the first time he had lowered a bucket, thinking it empty, and the cold water had tasted like regret. "Then why now?" he asked, eyes scanning the rim for movement, for shadows, for lies. "Because it's time someone remembered," she said. He exhaled slowly. "You're asking me to dig into ghosts." "They're not ghosts," she said sharply. "They're evidence." He studied her face. Dirt smeared her cheek. Her bruise had faded to yellow, but her eyes burned steady. "You're strong," he said. "You survived everything and came here to face them again." "They're still here," she said, voice dropping. "You just have to reach for them." "Reach for them," he repeated. "Or they'll stay buried forever." He knelt beside the well and let his fingers trace the cold stone, rough and mossed over. The shadows stretched deep into its mouth. He could feel the emptiness like a chill pressing up his spine. "It's too quiet," he muttered. "Quiet isn't safe," she said. She crouched beside him, hand brushing against his as they both touched the rim. A shiver went through him. "You feel it too?" she asked. "Memory," he said. "Regret." "No," she said. "More than that. Presence. They're still here." He looked down into the darkness. A faint glint caught the last light of the sun. His stomach churned. "Stone," he whispered. "Bone," she said. He froze. "What?" "Look closer." He leaned over, stomach tight. The faint glint repeated, pale, almost white. He stumbled back a step, heart pounding. "You planted it," he accused. She shook her head slowly. "I didn't touch anything. This is theirs. They've waited too long for someone to see." His palms pressed to the stone. Cold, rough, and real. He remembered a night years ago, standing alone at this very well, telling himself he was just too tired, just too small to stop it. And the papers. The reports. Closed. Ignored. He had justified it then. She knew. You knew? He asked, voice tight. I suspected, she said. And you stayed quiet. I didn't know who else to trust. Silence. He felt shame and anger mix into a bitter taste at the back of his throat. Your husband? He asked finally, voice trembling. What about him? They killed him. The words were precise. Clean. Sharp. I know, he said. I wasn't there. I walked away. You walked away, she repeated. I stayed. He swallowed. The bucket of memory and guilt weighed heavy. Why here? He muttered. Because it's where it all started, she said. Her gaze swept the clearing, the cabin, the well. And where it ends. He exhaled through his nose, slow. What do you see down there? Everything they tried to hide. Her hand brushed his again. Warm. Solid. Bones? He asked. She nodded. Evidence. Letters. Remnants of people who trusted too much. He gritted his teeth. I thought leaving meant I was safe. Safe, she said, voice low. There's no safety in walking away from truth. He shook his head, swallowed hard, stomach tight with nausea and adrenaline. Then we start, she said. He looked down into the darkness of the well, the shadow swallowing the last light of the day. Something inside him shifted. He remembered the files he closed, the girls whose names he never learned, the quiet promises he ignored. And now, staring at the well, he felt the weight of all the lives he had touched and left behind. We need tools, he said finally. Shovels, she said. He nodded. Buckets. Gloves. And courage, he added, voice bitter. You have enough of that, she said. I'll make up for the rest. He glanced around the clearing. The cabin behind them sat quiet. The wind whispered through the dry grass, carrying faint echoes of memory. He felt exposed. Bare. Vulnerable. And strangely, he liked it. Do you ever fear them? He asked. The sheriff? The men he protects? Fear, she repeated. Yes. But more than that, I fear forgetting. He nodded. You mean letting them bury the truth? Exactly, she said. Her eyes held his. We cannot let them do that again. He swallowed, remembering nights he spent staring at that badge, thinking it symbolized authority, not knowing it was a chain. The sheriff, he muttered. He won't come here, she said. Not alone. Not until he thinks we're done. And if he comes? Then we make sure he sees what he buried. His gut twisted. You want the world to see bones? Not the world, she said. Those who hid them. He glanced at her. Bruises faded, but the strength remained. He felt something rise inside him. Responsibility. Rage. Memory. We start now, he asked. She nodded. First light was too late. He reached for the shovel leaning against the cabin wall. The metal felt cold in his hands. She took the other. They stood side by side, staring at the dark mouth of the well. A deep silence hung between them. The sun dipped further, shadows stretching across the clearing. The wind carried faint whispers, like voices pressed into the air by the walls of the cabin, by the dirt, by memory. What if they hear us? He asked. Let them, she said. They've been hearing us all along. They just chose to ignore it. He shifted his weight. The stones of the well bit into his palms. I haven't done this in years, he muttered. You'll do fine, she said. I won't be quiet. He exhaled slowly, pushing his hands into the rough stone. Then we're not alone, she said. He nodded. The wind picked up. Dust swirled around the edges of the well. Their boots scraped against dry dirt. The last light of day bled out of the sky. And for the first time in years, he felt the weight of purpose settle on his shoulders, heavy and certain. They dropped the shovels beside the well, crouched at its edge, and looked down together. The darkness seemed to press back at them, cold and waiting, but something beneath it stirred: bones, letters, fragments of lives erased. He swallowed hard. "Ready?" she asked. "Yes," he said, though his voice trembled. The wind carried faint whispers through the trees, the cabin behind them silent and watching. Together, they leaned over the rim, fingers brushing, hands steady, ready to uncover what had been hidden too long, ready to confront what had been buried under law, fear, and silence. And for the first time in years, he felt that old weight of regret shift, replaced with something sharper, something alive, something that demanded reckoning. They would dig. They would see. They would not be quiet. The well waited, dark and endless, but they were ready to meet it. And as they leaned over, the shadows shifted. The clearing held its breath. And the cabin, the place he once thought safe, whispered faintly behind them, holding memory and secrets like a warning. He gripped the rim, pulled himself forward, and for the first time in years, let the past speak, let it guide them, let it rise from the dark. The distant rumble of the engine reached them first, soft at first, then louder, like a drum in the empty clearing. He straightened, hands gripping the rim of the well, eyes scanning the dirt road. "That's not him," he muttered. She crouched beside him, shovel in hand, eyes following the sound. "It is," she said. "I can feel it." The truck's tires crunched over the dry gravel. He cursed under his breath. "He shouldn't know where we are." "Doesn't matter," she said, calm, almost detached. "He'll come anyway. Men like him always do." The engine stopped. Silence fell, thick and brittle. Then the truck door creaked. A tall man stepped out, hat pulled low, boots dusted with the road. Even from a distance, his calm made the air heavier. "Evening," he called, voice smooth, practiced, the kind of polite that masked teeth. "Evening," the cowboy replied, low, cautious. She stayed silent, hands resting lightly on her shovel, eyes never leaving him. The sheriff, he thought, though the title felt like a brand rather than a man, smiled faintly, one corner of his mouth twitching up. "You're far from town," the sheriff said. "I patrol everywhere." The voice was flat, casual, but there was steel underneath. "Even to abandoned wells?" the cowboy asked. The sheriff's gaze flicked to her. "Well now," he said slowly, deliberately, "found yourself company?" She straightened, dusting the dirt from her skirt, standing taller than he expected. "You signed my husband's death report," she said, blunt and cold. The sheriff's smile didn't falter. "He fell," he said lightly. "You didn't look," she pressed. "I didn't need to," he said, calm, as if saying it would erase the evidence in the well. The cowboy stepped between them, hands clenched. "She's staying," he said. "Didn't ask," the sheriff replied, gaze sharp. Two deputies appeared from the truck bed, quiet, watching. "You're trespassing," the sheriff said, smooth, deliberate. "Not here," the cowboy said. "This is my land." "Not after tonight," the sheriff countered, voice soft but heavy. He looked around, as if weighing the stones, the trees, the shadows at the edge of the clearing. Then his eyes flicked to the well. "Careful where you dig," he said, almost a whisper. The warning hung in the air like smoke, curling around them. "Your father built this county," she said, voice low, measured. "He buried people like my husband. You think that ended with him?" The sheriff's smile tightened, almost imperceptibly. "Watch your words, girl." "I'll watch mine," she said. "You watch what you hide." The cowboy's chest tightened. He had wanted to remain quiet. Stay out of this. But now, seeing the sheriff, hearing the edge beneath the smile, the weight of every case he closed wrong rose up in his throat. "You want me to act," he muttered under his breath. She nodded once. "You always wanted to make a difference," she said softly. "Now you can." The sheriff turned his attention fully to them. "You're making a mistake," he said. "You've gone too far." "No," the cowboy said quietly, low, deliberate. "We've just begun." The deputies stepped forward, cautious, eyes on the woman, hands hovering near their holsters. "I suggest you leave," the sheriff said. "Before things get messy." You're right, she said. They already are. She reached into her bag, pulling a folded letter, old and yellowed, and held it up. You want to read what your father did? Silence fell. The deputies stiffened. The sheriff's hand twitched toward his coat, but he held it. The letter was flung into the dirt at his feet. You remember everything, don't you? He said. I do, she said. I remember him. I remember you. I remember what you buried. A pause. The cowboy's fists unclenched slightly, shaking. His palms pressed to the dirt. He felt rage, guilt, and fear swirl together, raw and tight. The sheriff bent down, picking up the letter. This changes nothing, he said, voice calm but dark. It changes everything, she replied. She reached toward the well, stone cold beneath her fingers. We're done listening to what you think is buried. The deputies glanced at each other, uncertainty creeping in. The sheriff straightened, forced a tight smile. You'll regret this, he said. I already have, she said. She struck a match. The fire sparked, catching the dry leaves and kindling they had prepared. The cowboy's breath hitched. The flames licked the stones at the well's edge. The sheriff's eyes narrowed. That's evidence, he said sharply. It's light, she said. It shows the truth. The wind carried smoke toward the truck, curling around the sheriff's boots. The deputies flinched, uneasy. You think this proves anything? He asked. It proves everything, she said. The flames reflected off the dirt, the stones, the metal of his old badge now laid aside in the cabin. Bones, letters, everything, she said. All of it buried under your family's silence. The sheriff took a slow step back. You have no idea what you're meddling with, he said. You think silence lasts forever, she said, voice rising slightly, but someone always remembers. Someone always sees. The wind shifted, scattering ashes and sparks across the clearing. He felt adrenaline tighten in his chest. He had spent years avoiding this. Years pretending that leaving meant safety. Now he realized leaving had been complicity. The sheriff's smile faltered, just a fraction, as he watched her stand there, steady and unflinching. You will answer for this, he said finally. Not today, she said. Not with me standing. His hands trembled slightly, even though his voice stayed calm. You're bold, he said. No, she replied. I'm not bold. I'm right. He reached for the well's rim, gripping it tightly. We start now, she said. We don't wait. The sheriff's truck idled, engine humming softly in the background. The deputies flinched, unsure. Their authority, once absolute, now felt fragile, tested. One wrong move, the sheriff said. You know what's coming. Then let them see it, she said. Everything. He could feel the old weight of his badge, the years of silence, pressing on him. He gritted his teeth. The sheriff took another step back, visibly unsettled. And the wind carried the fire's glow over the dirt, stones, and well. You can't fight all of this, the sheriff said finally, voice low. Maybe not alone, she said, glancing at the cowboy. But not alone, he repeated softly, voice heavy, almost relieved. The cabin sat behind them, still and silent, watching, waiting. The sheriff's eyes flicked toward it, then back to the fire at the well, to the woman who refused to be afraid, to the man who had once been quiet. For the first time, the sheriff's smile lost its ease. You'll regret this, he repeated, but the threat felt hollow, weighed down by what they had uncovered and what they were about to uncover. The wind shifted again, carrying smoke and ash through the clearing. Shadows stretched long, dark against the cabin walls. We're done hiding, she said, voice firm, cutting through the tension. He nodded once, feeling the cold edge of memory, guilt, and determination sharpen in his chest. The sheriff straightened, his hands lowering slowly, realizing the stakes had changed. The letters, the bones, the evidence, the well, nothing could be put back into darkness. He turned, climbing slowly into his truck, glancing over his shoulder. This isn't over, he said. It's over for tonight, she said. The cowboy watched as the truck rumbled down the road, the sheriff's shadow stretching behind it like a threat that had finally met its mirror. "You okay?" she asked, voice soft now. "I will be," he said. He let the tension leave his shoulders slowly, exhaling through the heat of the fire and smoke. "We start digging tomorrow?" he asked. "No," she said. "Tonight." He glanced at the well, at the stones, at the small circle of firelight catching pale hints of what lay below. He gritted his teeth. "Then let's start," he said. Together, hands gripping shovels, standing at the edge of the clearing, the cabin behind them, the fire illuminating the shadows at the well's mouth, they prepared to face what had been buried. And for the first time in years, the sheriff's threats, his family power, his smiles, all of it felt distant. The weight of justice, of truth, and of memory pressed forward, relentless. And they were ready. Back inside the cabin, the air felt heavier, thick with smoke from the well outside, still faintly lingering through the open door. He shut it behind them, pressing the bolt firmly. She moved to the corner near the old stove, kneeling beside a loose plank in the floorboards. "There's more," she said quietly. "More of them." He knelt beside her, hands brushing the worn wood, feeling the weight of the years pressed into every creak and groove. "Letters?" he asked. "Yes." Her fingers pried the plank up carefully, revealing a small hollow beneath. Inside, papers stacked unevenly, yellowed with age, edges frayed. "Women," he whispered. She nodded. "Names. Places. Dates. All the ones who disappeared before anyone could speak." He reached for one, gingerly lifting it. The handwriting was desperate, messy, raw with fear. He read aloud, "He says the land owns us. He says no one will believe women who wander." He swallowed hard. "Your sheriff's father wrote these?" "Some of them," she said. "Some of his men. Some he hired. All of them buried in silence." His chest tightened. "Why hide them here?" "Because no one came looking here. Because it's forgotten." He nodded slowly, gripping the edge of the floorboard. "And now we've found them." "Exactly," she said, eyes dark, voice low. "Exactly." He read another, "If she speaks, she'll disappear like the rest." He closed his eyes, swallowing bile. The memories he had tried to bury surged, unbidden. Reports he'd filed, complaints he ignored, whispers he silenced. She placed a hand on his shoulder. "You see now," she said. "You see what quiet does." He exhaled slowly, knuckles white. "I see," he muttered. "I ignored it." "We didn't ignore it," she said sharply. "We survived it. And now, we act." He lifted another letter, trembling. "They thought no one would ever know." "They were wrong," she said. "They're always wrong." He glanced at her, bruised but resolute, the lines of exhaustion etched into her face, the firelight from the stove flickering across her features. "Your husband?" he asked, voice low. "They killed him," she said bluntly. "Broke his ribs. Left him in the barn. Called it an accident." He flinched, chest tightening. "And you stayed?" "I stayed alive," she said, bitter. "Barely. But I stayed." He swallowed hard. "And the others?" "Still waiting," she said. "In letters. In bones. In silence." He knelt, sifting carefully through the stack. "You were right," he muttered. "I buried truth once. I can't do it again." "Then don't," she said softly. "We can uncover it together." His hand trembled as he lifted a small folded note. The initials matched one he recognized faintly from the sheriff's old records. This is them," he whispered. She nodded. "And the well. That's where they are." His stomach churned. "I thought the well was just a memory." "Memory," she said, voice low, "but not empty." "Not yet." He pressed the note to his chest, fingers curling around it. "You want me to, what? Dig it up? Expose it?" "Yes," she said. "And witness it. And let the world see that silence never wins." He exhaled, slow and heavy. You've been carrying this alone. No more, she said, standing, brushing dust from her skirt. Not tonight. Not ever again. The air hung still. Outside, the embers of the well glowed faintly through the open door. Shadows from the cabin walls stretched long and dark. He placed the letters carefully back under the floorboard, pressing the plank down. You trust me? She asked. I do, he said. You trust me with the fire? I do, she replied. He felt the weight of years pressing against him, the badge he'd left on the table now a distant memory. It wasn't authority anymore. It was responsibility. And guilt. And purpose. She moved to the stove, kettle warm, pouring a thin stream of water into cups. Drink, she said. He took it without a word, staring at her, noting the faint bruises, the way her hands trembled slightly as she set the cups down. You could have left, he said. I could have, she said. But I didn't. You understand why? He nodded. I do. You're not asking for help. You're demanding action. Yes, she said, sharp. Action. Not silence. Not excuses. Action. He glanced at the floorboards again. And if we start uncovering this, what then? Then we see it through, she said. All of it. Every hidden letter, every buried body, every secret they thought was safe. He swallowed hard. This could ruin lives. It already has, she said. Now we're just setting the record straight. He closed his eyes. Memories of the sheriff's smooth voice, his threats, his smiles, the hidden power pressing down on the county, pressed against him. He felt anger rise, steady and hot. We need shovels, he said finally, voice low but firm. Buckets, she added. Gloves. And courage, he said, bitter. She smiled faintly. You have enough, she said. I'll make up for the rest. He nodded. Outside, the wind pressed faintly against the cabin walls, rustling the dry grass beyond the door. Dust shifted, carrying the faint smell of smoke and ash from the well. We leave at first light? He asked. No, she said. Now. He hesitated. The thought of facing what had been buried for years churned his stomach. Now, she said again, firmer. We can't wait. He grabbed his coat from the peg by the door. The air smelled cold, metallic, heavy with history. The letters under the floorboards, the bones at the well, the fire still faint outside, it pressed in on him, thick, real, unrelenting. She followed him, calm, steady, ready. They stepped outside. The evening air hit their faces sharp and clean. He glanced back at the cabin, at the floorboards now holding evidence of decades of silence. You ready? She asked, voice low, deliberate. I am, he said, finally. The well waited, dark and silent. Shadows of the clearing stretched long under the rising moon. The embers of the earlier fire glowed faintly, like a heartbeat beneath the dirt and stones. We uncover it all, she said. Every letter, every name, every secret. He gripped the handle of the shovel tighter. We see it through. They approached the well side by side, hands brushing, fingers tight around the metal. The weight of years, of buried bodies, of silent screams pressed down on them. And yet, there was resolve. Fire. Purpose. He looked at her, bruised, exhausted, determined, and felt a shift inside him. He was no longer the quiet man who left the cabin behind. He was present. Accountable. Dangerous in his attention. The letters, she said softly, they'll guide us. Then let's start, he replied. The air was thick with wind, dust, memory, and smoke. They knelt at the well, leaning over the rim, eyes tracing the darkness. And for the first time in years, he did not look away. The past had returned, but he was ready. Together, they would dig. Together, they would uncover what had been buried. And together, they would face whatever waited beneath the stones, the letters, the dirt, and the silence. The cabin watched, shadows deepening along its walls, keeping memory, keeping secrets, keeping time. They did not need the cabin anymore. They had each other, and the weight of truth at their fingertips. And the well waited, endless, patient, certain, they worked side by side at the edge of the well, shovels biting into the dry earth. Dust rose, mixing with the faint smoke from the smoldering embers of the fire outside the cabin. He lifted each shovelful carefully, muscles straining, arms trembling with the weight of years spent walking away from what mattered. She worked faster, methodical, precise, each scoop of dirt falling with a quiet finality. "You ever dig graves before?" he asked, voice low. "No," she said. "Doesn't mean I can't." He exhaled slowly, sweat running down his temples. "This is different." "Everything buried is different," she said, leaning over the rim to lift another handful of soil. "You ever think about what we're going to find? Bones, letters, maybe trinkets." "Maybe more than I want to see," he said, hands shaking as he set the shovel down. She didn't stop. "The truth isn't about comfort," she said. "It's about seeing what's real." He glanced down at her, face grim, determination etched into every line. "You've carried this alone," he said. "I had to," she said, breath steady. "Someone had to survive." He nodded, returning to the dirt. Every scoop felt like opening a wound he thought healed. Every stone that scraped against the metal of the shovel reminded him of the old badge, left behind in the cabin, useless now. "Watch your back," she said suddenly. He looked up, eyes sharp. "What?" "Deputies. Roads. The sheriff. They'll come." "And if they do?" "Then we keep digging," she said. "They've buried enough. It's time someone unearthed it." Silence fell for a moment, broken only by the rhythm of shovels and the scrape of stone against soil. The moon was rising, pale, cold, casting long shadows over the clearing. "How deep do you think?" he asked finally. "Enough," she said. "Enough to find what they tried to hide forever." He nodded, muscles burning. "And if we find bodies?" "Then we bury truth on top," she said flatly. He blinked at her, not expecting the bluntness. "Not cover it? Expose it. Mark it. Let it speak for itself." He swallowed hard. "And if the sheriff comes back?" She didn't flinch. "He'll see what silence does. He'll see what fear hides." Another shovelful fell. The dirt was dry, stubborn, clinging. He wiped sweat from his forehead, letting it fall into the earth. "It's heavier than I remember," he said. "Memories weigh more than soil," she replied. He exhaled sharply, thinking of the letters under the floorboards, of the bones at the bottom of the well, of all the people who had vanished without notice. "You ever regret it?" he asked. "What?" "Staying alive. Carrying this." "Regret," she repeated. "No. Fear, yes. But regret? Never." He nodded slowly. "You're braver than I thought." She glanced at him, faint smile. "And you're finally awake." He swallowed, letting the words settle like stones in his chest. "I don't feel awake," he muttered. "I feel responsible." "Good," she said. "That's the start." Hours passed. The moon climbed higher. Dust settled on their clothes, hair, hands. Their breathing was ragged, muscles screaming, but they kept going. Every scoop brought a small shift, a small revelation, until the earth felt less like a barrier and more like a layer of time pressed against memory. He paused, hand on the shovel, staring at the hollow beneath the rim. "I see something," he said. She leaned over. "Bones?" "Partly," he said. "Small pieces. Fragments. And letters." She reached down carefully, fingers brushing the fragile papers. "Good," she whispered. "Keep going." He shook his head. "It's more than I expected." "It's always more," she said. "Always." They lifted more soil, more fragments, stacking them carefully beside the well. The weight of evidence, of decades of hidden truth, pressed down on him, but he didn't stop. He felt alive in a way he hadn't in years. "You know," he said, voice low, "I thought walking away made me safe." "It didn't," she said, voice blunt. "Safe never existed. Only memory, and the choices we make." He exhaled slowly, letting the truth hit him hard. "Then this is choice," he said. "Yes," she replied. "And courage. And anger. And what's left of justice." The dirt beneath them shifted again. Another fragment surfaced, faint, pale. He reached down, lifting a small bone, clean, fragile. He swallowed. This is them," he whispered. She nodded. All of them. Everyone they thought forgotten. He felt bile rise, throat tight. "Letters?" She handed him one, edges frayed, ink faded but legible. "Read it," she said. He unfolded it, scanning quickly. Words that had once been silent, trapped, now spoken. "He says no one will see us. He says silence will protect him," he read aloud. His voice broke. "Not anymore," she said, voice hard, unwavering. He folded the paper, placing it beside the bones. "It's more than letters. More than bones," he said. "It's truth." "Exactly," she said. "And it's time someone listened." Another hour passed. The dirt grew loose, the fragments became more numerous, the letters more delicate. They stacked everything carefully, respecting what had been silenced. He wiped sweat from his face, brushing dirt from his hands, looking at her. "You stayed alive to do this," he said. "Yes," she said. "And now, we both do it." He nodded, a faint smile breaking through the tension. "I never thought I'd feel purpose again." "You have it now," she said, voice soft but firm. "Hold on to it." They leaned over the well again, hands on the rim, eyes tracing the hollow darkness beneath. The fragments of lives, the letters, the small bones, all pressed into the earth like testimony. "Tomorrow," she said, "we start documenting. Every name. Every story." He exhaled slowly. "And the sheriff?" "Let him come," she said. "He'll see what burying the truth costs." He swallowed hard, gripping the rim. "I never imagined I'd be here again." "Neither did I," she said. "But here we are. And here we stay." The wind picked up, carrying faint ash from the fire outside, curling around the well, the cabin, the clearing. Shadows stretched long, the moon casting cold light on dirt and stone, letters and bones. He felt the old fear stir, but it was sharper, cleaner now, transformed by purpose. "We finish this," he said. "We can't stop now." "Never," she said. "Never again." Their shovels rested briefly beside them as they knelt at the edge, hands brushing over fragments, letters, evidence, the weight of memory pressing down. And for the first time in years, he didn't look away. They would uncover it all. They would witness it all. And they would not be silent. The cabin behind them held its breath. The wind whispered through dry grass and broken wood. Shadows shifted. Memory pressed close. And together, they leaned over the edge, ready to face every secret hidden beneath stone, dirt, and silence. He dug slowly, letting the earth give way to reveal the first clear fragment, a brittle piece of paper, folded unevenly, yellowed with age. His fingers trembled as he lifted it, brushing dust away, revealing a name written in careful, desperate ink. "Mary Thompson," he read aloud, voice low, reverent. She leaned close, eyes dark, absorbing every word. "She was the first," she said. "The first they thought they could erase." His stomach twisted. I remember her file. Complaints dismissed. Disappearances ignored." She nodded sharply. They assumed silence meant victory. He placed the paper carefully beside the pile they had uncovered, small bones, letters, evidence stacked like a fragile monument. "And now?" he asked. "Now we remember," she said. "We give her a name again. A presence." The wind pressed against the cabin walls, faint but insistent, as if it carried the whispers of all the lost women. He swallowed hard. You ever think about them? He asked, voice low. Every day, she said. Every single day. Every name, every face. Every scream they thought was quiet. He felt his hands tighten around the paper. This is more than bones and letters, he said. It's life. It's memory. And they try to bury it, she said, voice low but sharp. Everyone they thought invisible. Everyone erased. He nodded slowly. So we start with Mary Thompson, he said. Then the next? Then the next, she said. Every name buried beneath law, fear, and silence. Another fragment surfaced. A letter, torn at the edges, ink smeared from years of hidden damp. He unfolded it carefully. The words were stark. He says I will vanish if I speak. He says no one will believe me. He says silence is my only protection. He swallowed, chest tight. Her voice, he muttered. We hear it now, she said. We give it life again. He set the letter beside the first, arranging the fragile testimony in neat, careful piles. The shadows of the cabin stretched long, the fire outside the door giving off faint light. He glanced at her, bruised but steady, and felt the weight of years pressing into his chest. How many are there? He asked quietly. Enough, she said. Enough to shame them, enough to remember, enough to break the silence they thought would last forever. He exhaled slowly, gripping a small bone, brushing it against the paper. They tried to make all this invisible. And they almost succeeded, she said, voice sharp. Almost. He leaned back, chest heaving. Why tell me this? He asked, voice low. Because you walked away, she said bluntly. Because you have the skill. The strength. The responsibility. I didn't ask for it, he muttered. No, she said. But it found you. Another letter surfaced, smaller, almost hidden beneath the soil. He unfolded it. He says she's mine to control. He says silence is obedience. They all said that, she said. And they all underestimated those they buried. He studied the ink, the handwriting, the desperate pleas trapped in paper. I can feel them, he whispered. Every one. She reached over, hand brushing his. Then don't let them go, she said. Not tonight. Not ever. Another name emerged, written faintly along the edge of a crumpled letter, Clara Jenkins. He read it aloud, letting the weight of the name settle. Another, she said softly. Another life they tried to erase. His hands trembled. We're just uncovering them, he muttered. Yes, she said. But uncovering is power. Uncovering is witness. Uncovering is justice. He swallowed, letting it hit him. The fire outside cast faint light through the open door, shadows dancing across the floorboards, letters, fragments, and small bones. Do you ever feel guilty? He asked quietly. For surviving? All the time, she said. But survival is the only way we can witness. Only way we can name them. He nodded slowly. And the sheriff? He'll come, she said calmly. But we're ready. We know what's buried, we know the names. He can't erase that. Another letter surfaced, edges torn, ink fading. She read it aloud, voice low but steady.